Hello, my name is Fernando de Zayas, and I will be covering the work I did on the Head and Shoulders algorithm for Sprint 6. A brief recap of the Head and Shoulders algorithm is that it's a specific pattern that looks like a head and shoulders if you generalize three rises as such, with two small rises surrounding a large rise in prices, or lows if it is a negative trend. To start, this pattern requires that there be a positive trend or negative trend in effect, but that does not say anything about how long the trend will last. So this is attempting to determine when the trend will reverse or when it will continue. Now, this has been remade from Sprint 5 because this version in Sprint 5 only returns 0 and never prompted a trade. Although even though it's been remade, the logic is mostly the same, just with a lot less code. It's going with a basic waterfall of if-else statements going in reverse, in that it's checking the latest variable, the last variable first, and then going in reverse. Last, second last, third last, and such, all the way up until the very first one that has to be set if it isn't. Though from the very start, we're just checking current period equal to init period. This is a variable that's set at the start, and it's just to be comparing the simple moving average of a previous period to the current period. If the initial one is greater than the current moving average, then we have a negative trend. We set the current period to 0 and it enters the negative trend branch. If it's less than the current moving average, then we have a positive trend. We set the current period to 0 and we enter the positive trend branch. Otherwise, we just decrement current period by 1 and check again on the next tick. Now let's start with a positive trend, since this is easier to visualize. We're mostly working with 5 variables here: first high through third high, and first low and second low. On initialization, all of these are 0, so each branch checks if they are not 0. Third high is the last case in which we want to have a positive trend, or rather we want to see if it has a trend reversal, and if it reaches that far, it's pretty much guaranteed. It's only a question of when. But starting from the very bottom, first high gets the value of find last buy price. When first high is not equal to 0, if it's less than the find last buy price, it becomes find last buy price. Else, if it's greater, then the first low is the find last buy price. Now, when first low is not equal to 0, it does the same, but in reverse. When first low is greater than find last buy price, it keeps becoming find last buy price. The logic for these two is that in the case of first high, if it's less than find last buy price, that means the price keeps increasing, so we want to keep setting it to that until the price starts decreasing. That would be the first top in the head and shoulders pattern. For the first low, it keeps decreasing until it starts increasing, and that would be the first low. This repeats with second high, second low, and third high. Now in second low, when it starts rising again, we compare first low to second low. If the second low is actually less than the first low, then we have a failed trend reversal according to the top dog trading video. So we return a 1 because the trend will remain positive. Otherwise, we continue to third high, and here we're just waiting for third high to become less than the final last buy price, at which point we know the trend is going to be negative, and we return a negative 1. For negative trend, it is the same logic, just reversed by using the negative trend and going with first low, second low, third low, and first high and second high. There's also this helper function for final last buy price that's constantly referenced. Which just gets the order open price from a specific order. In this case, we have the current symbol. The magic number is just one I made up at the top, and it is for buying. That's all. I would have liked to have made more changes, but the problem is that this pattern is extremely specific. I attempted to use a function to get the lowest low and the highest high in an area, but that doesn't really work. With head and shoulders, in the sense that you're not allowed to have intermediate highs and intermediate lows between these. And I would have to constantly be checking every intermediate period to be even more complicated than just updating these one by one. Another issue is the vagueness, because even though both of these require there to be a positive trend or negative trend, I'm not doing complicated logic to check that. I'm just checking the simple moving average over a period. And it also doesn't say anything about how long the trend will last. That's part of why I want head and shoulders, in order to see if the trend will continue, if we're uncertain, or if the trend will reverse. Looking into other expert advisors, their logic was much more generalized and did not have to go into literally the specific shape of the buy price of a currency, in the sense that it was not allowed to have intermediate shape. No. Shapes within the shape. This also made it seem like head and shoulders requires a much larger period than for 1 minute. I'm assuming 1 hour would be a good period for this, in order to have less noise and be able to be more certain about it matching a pattern, but that's just an assumption based from some of the tests I've run with this. This has been my work on the Head and Shoulders algorithm for Sprint 6. Thank you for your time.